The 7th of July, otherwise known here in Kenya as Sabasaba Day. So, why is it called Sabasaba Day? It marks the commemoration of a major pro-democracy demonstration that happened on the 7th of July 1990, where Kenyans marched to the streets demanding for constitutional change to repeal Section 2A of the old constitution, which would allow for multi-party democracy. It was also a reaction out of the desperation of Kenyans who had for long lived under the dictatorship of then-President Daniel Arap Moi and a one-party state rule under KANU. Young politicians who were known as the Young Turks, with the support of more experienced politicians, called for a massive rally that was supposed to be held at the Kamukunji grounds on the 7th of July 1990. But on the days leading up to 7th July, the government of President Moi was not comfortable with the kind of influence the young politicians were having on the country, and they started targeting leaders of the Sabasaba movement. Charles Rubia, Raila Odinga, and Kenneth Matiba were arrested and detained days before Sabasaba. But that did not stop the rally from happening. There was enough anger and frustration among Kenyans to push them to come out and protest against the oppressive regime. So on the 7th of July, they came out. Kenyans took to the streets to push for constitutional reforms, and they were met by armed police who tear-gassed and clobbered them, leaving hundreds if not thousands injured. James Orengo, Paul Muite, and Gitobu Manyara were some of the young politicians who led the protests on Sabasaba Day, and they too were not spared by the police. The impact of the Sabasaba riots became a trigger for the second liberation movement in the 90s, a movement that gave birth to multi-party democracy in Kenya. 31 years later, Sabasaba has never been recognized as a national holiday, but it is still remembered by Kenyans as a day when citizens decided to act against an oppressive regime. It is also a day that many human rights defenders used to call for the end of police brutality, given the kind of violence and brute force that was unleashed on Kenyans who were protesting on the streets on Sabasaba in 1990. It left 21 dead and thousands injured. As generations pass, the memories of Sabasaba become less amplified. But in the history books, the impact of the events of the 7th of July 1990 will always be a major turning point in the history of Kenya's democracy.